Greetings, everybody. Welcome to TV Skywriter. I'm Patricia A. Murray, your host. TV Skywriter emanates from Durham, North Carolina. That's where I live now, from Chicago originally. Basically, I talk to writers, musicians, entrepreneurs, just creative people who want to get on the air and talk about their work to the general public. So if you'd like to be on TV Skywriter, just write to me, Patricia A. Murray, at durhamskywriter@gmail.com. Now today's guest, he's been on before, but I'd love to have him back because last time the lighting was a little off, but today we've got it together. We have world-renowned percussionist Kahlil Kwame Bell. Welcome to the show, and you're in Jersey right now, right?
I am.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome. Thanks you for having me, Patricia. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, I understand that you're going to be here in Durham next Sunday.
Yeah, I'll be arriving there early Saturday morning. I'm also doing a workshop. And so Saturday, I'm doing a workshop at the what used to be the No bookstore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the gentleman that owns that. I'll be doing a workshop at his place there, and it's like $5 for students with ID and $10 for everybody else.
That's amazing, considering when people realize who you are, they're going to say people might be flying in.
Oh yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
And let me give you the date because this show obviously will be on YouTube forever until I don't know, till time ends. So right. The date is going to be Saturday, October 25th, 2014. And then you're going to appear in concert at Blue Coffee Cafe in downtown Durham the next day, Sunday, October 26th, 2014, from 4 until 6 p.m. In honor, it says, Remembering Pearl, an afternoon of jazz. There you go.
Exactly.
So I want to know exactly who you are. Tell us who you've played with, and then, if you don't mind, telling us how you got started in playing percussion.
Okay. I got started playing percussion. My father and my uncle exposed me to West African drumming. They were studying with a gentleman by the name of Laji Camara from Guinea, West Africa, who used to play with a group called Joliba Nationale, also Les Ballets Africains. And some of the members of that group were Famadou and Mamadi Keita, and Bemba Barge. All of these brothers are basically Guinea brothers from Guinea who had come here with those dance companies and were also under the leadership of Laji Camara. Laji actually had performed with many different African American dance companies here as well. He came here like 1958, so he was here for a while. He was actually here before Olatunji, and he was the one who pretty much made the djembe popular here. Mm-hmm. Prior to him, the djembe wasn't really like the #1 African instrument here, but it slowly became that. Now I think it's the #1 African instrument even in Africa because and even though everybody knows Senegalese play, Katiro drums and Saba drums, they also play djembe as well, and people in Ivory Coast play djembe, and people I'm sorry.
When you say djembe, I imagine the drum is like a conga drum, and then it gets narrow near the bottom. And
I always call it like an hourglass looking instrument, except without the bottom.
Okay, and it has a real nice, tight tone to it.
Mm-hmm. It has a very deep bass, and it has very high-pitched tones and slaps. Mm-hmm. And that was the first drum that was introduced to me when I was 2 years old. And then the first performance that I ever did was with my father and my uncle. We performed for some inmates at Northern State Prison. And I was just a baby, so I was just rolling with my father and my uncle. And then after I drummed with them, though, it became a way for us to bond, me and my father and my uncle.
Nice.
And so that was I just kept it with me. And then by the time I was 15, I had been drumming for quite some time at that point, and I'd been playing some drum set as well by then. And a woman by the name of Frances Rhymes, who is out of Queens. I mean, she was raised in Harlem, born and raised in Harlem, but she lived in Queens, and she has a dance company in Queens called St. Benedict School of Dance.
Okay.
And she was teaching at Harlem School of the Arts for some years. And she had a drummer that used to come with her from Queens named Stewart. And when he came, I would sit in with him, and then she heard me drum with him, and she said, "Are you a student here?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "So you're a student here learning?" I said, "Yeah, I'm here learning drumming." She said, "Come with me," and she took me to the office and got me a job to play for her classes with Stewart.
Wow, sweet.
And then what happened was she kept Stewart in Queens and started using me in Harlem. And then sometimes Stewart and I would play together. Like if she had a show in Queens, I would play with her in Queens. And if we had a show in Harlem, he would come to Harlem and play with me. And I've been drumming for her now. I mean, it's over 25 years now because I drum for her now. She's 83 years old, and we both work at Adelphi University.
Wow.
She had called me to come to work with her at Adelphi University, which is in Long Island. It's very far from where I live, but for her, I was going to do anything because she's the first person who believed in my musicianship.
That's beautiful. Now, I don't know enough about drumming to really ask this question, but starting out as a little tiny kid, were you playing an American version of African music or the actual beats from Africa, or?
No, we were playing. There are a lot of African Americans during the '60s that were learning from Laji. He was a very strong teacher. He was teaching in the Bronx a little bit. Then he started teaching a little bit in Harlem, and then he had this place called Feretta's, which was downtown, that was in like a dance building. And it had about 3 or 4 floors, and he was one of the drum teachers there. And they had West African dance there, they had Congolese dance there, they had Brazilian dance there, they had flamenco dance there. On every floor there was a dance class with that was packed full of people. And then eventually it closed, unfortunately. But at that school, you'd have sometimes 5 to 10 drummers drumming for one class, just to get the understanding of the rhythms and when I was coming up too, I hung out with a lot of older musicians, even in the jazz world too. That folkloric world, was something that was introduced to me by my father and my uncle, but neither of my father and uncle, neither one of them pursued it as a career. So it was more like I was playing with them, and then once I started making money at 15, I said, okay, I'm going to do this because it was consistent, and I got a lot of encouragement from older drummers.
And you were seriously learning the real thing.
Oh yeah, I mean one of the first rhythms that I learned was Manjani, which is a dance and rhythm of celebration, very popular in Guinea, West Africa. And then started learning kuku, which was a dance of the fishermen. It's a rhythm for fishermen in West Africa. And then just different rhythms, kuku, manjani, lamban. And then there's so many rhythms, it's ridiculous. And they all are applied to various things. Some are applied to weddings, some of them are applied to funerals, some are applied to celebrations of manhood and womanhood, initiation, birth of a child, graduation from school, marriage, anything. It's there's all kinds of music that describes every aspect of development in life. And I was fortunate enough to be exposed to that first before I started learning classical music and jazz and funk and rock and everything else that we know in America. Because the folkloric rhythms gave me a foundation, and it made me humble. Because when you're performing on stage, if you're not careful, you start getting caught up in the lights and glamour, and you lose your sensibility and study, and you start feeling, well, shoot, I'm making money, What do I need to study for? There's a lot of artists that are like that, that are famous. They feel, well, I'm famous now. What do I need to? But, the quest, as a human being is always to strive to better yourself the best way you can. And the art is such a strong discipline, like martial arts or music art or visual art or dance or sports, any kind of discipline that forces you to have a sense of regiment every single day is going to develop. You're going to become a stronger human being as a result.
Mm-hmm. Do you think when it comes to drumming that it helps to learn the dance also?
Well, the interesting thing about in Kiswahili, there's a word called ngoma, which means drum and dance. There's a marriage between drum and dance because the feet and the hands are almost speaking to each other during a dance class. And the drummers feed off the energy of the dancers, and the dancers feed off the energy of the drummers. Mm-hmm. So if a drummer sees a dancer who's dancing her butt off, it makes him want to drum better. And vice versa. Okay. If a dancer hears a drummer who's really playing his butt off, she wants to dance well. So there's always this marriage between men and women with drum and dance. And then there's also this there's all these rituals within drum classes where at the end of a dance class, the dancers will come and pay homage to the earth, touch their heart and bow down to the drummer, and the drummer bows down to the dancer. It's a very old tradition. Nice. within dance classes and stuff, and it's a wonderful connection between musician and dancer, and it's very much a marriage between the two within the setting of a dance class.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you study orchestra in high school or whatever, you very quickly find out who's supposedly the best. You'll see, first chair, second chair, third chair, clarinet, violin, or whatever. Mm-hmm. What's the hierarchy in African drumming, at least in your experience? Or is there a hierarchy? Are they all equal?
No. In drumming, usually the eldest drummer is the hierarchy, the eldest, and the person who's had the more experience. Or if even sometimes the younger musician might have had.
Hold it for 1 second. I just made the terrible mistake of not plugging in my computer. This is very unprofessional of me. Just got a warning. But go ahead. Keep that thought. I'll be right back.
No problem. Okay.
Let me get the plug real quick. Sorry about this, audience.
Okay.
This will take a second. 1 second. Acting quickly. There we go. The day is saved. Okay, I'm back. Woo.
Okay.
Get my earphones on. That was crazy. You can imagine my panic looking up and seeing 1%.
Uh-oh.
I forgot to plug in. See, what happens is I use my computer every day in the kitchen, and to do my show, I move it into the living room, and I forgot to plug. So sorry about that.
No
so I didn't mean to interrupt. So if you could continue, I'm sorry.
Oh, you were asking me about is there a hierarchy in drumming in regards to first chair, second chair, that kind of thing? And usually it usually goes from the eldest. It usually goes from the eldest. Okay. So like the elder, if you have an older drummer, he will lead the younger drummers.
Okay.
If you have a group of young drummers, usually the one who is more familiarized with the dancers that are dancing, he will lead the drum orchestra. or sometimes the one that knows the rhythm that the dancers asked for. Like sometimes there'll be a rhythm that I've never heard of, and so the dancer might sing it to me, and then I'll play it. But the person who's more familiar with that rhythm and plays with those dancers, they will lead the class, and I'll just accompany that drummer.
Oh, so wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that the dancers know the rhythms too?
The dancers know the rhythms too, exactly. They know the rhythms, not how to play them, but they know how to dance to them, and they know how they sound. Just like you know, if I go, you know, da 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 da, you know, so, exactly. So just familiar with the melodies of soul music or gospel or straight ahead or whatever within the African dance world, there are dancers who sing rhythms, and when they sing the rhythms, the drummers play right away, or sometimes the dancers will start dancing and the drummers know what to play right away just by you know, they know which dance goes with which rhythm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the knowledge has got to be pretty extensive.
Oh, it's incredible, and there's so many. And at this point now, when Laji had passed, and there was a big dedication to him that was done at Symphony Space on 96th Street in Broadway, or 94th Street in Broadway, something like that. It's this theater over there, and I was at the time I was working with this dance company called Seventh Principle, and the leader of that company, her name was Candace. She was from out of New Jersey also. I don't think she was from Jersey, but she was out of New Jersey, and she was one of the dancers who was combining modern with West African dance. And she was actually the first dancer to introduce me to Baba Mal, who's a well-known Senegalese singer and performer. I hadn't really heard his music until I worked with her, because she had this wonderful choreography that she did to one of his songs, and I said, I got to get this brother's records. He's incredible. But I did a piece with her at the time. Kimati Dini Zulu, who's from the Dini Zulu family. I don't know if you remember them, but they were actually the Dini Zulu family. Or African Americans who were around, they had traced their roots all the way back to, I believe, either Ghana or Nigeria, and they follow the tradition of their ancestors here in this country.
Nice.
They had a humongous family, a beautiful family out of Queens. They were primarily based in Queens. Kimati was part of Lion King and had done a lot of stuff. He was also percussionist who worked a lot with different jazz artists, Pharoah Saunders. I think he worked with Steve Teray as well. Stefan Harris, he did Stefan Harris' first record, Cloud of Red Dust. So I mean, all of these, and his family goes all the way back. I remember one of the Malcolm X speeches, when he was doing a speech on Lenox Avenue, 125th Street. He was saying, we want to welcome, right before he starts to speak on the politics and the issues and things going on in the community, he says, we want to thank the Dini Zulu dancers for coming here and performing. And I said, wow, they go all the way back to that far, you know. So they were always a traditional African dance company, and they were all family, you know, sisters, brothers, mothers and fathers, uncles, just everybody in that company was a family member.
That's nice. You know what? I need to ask you this. I've never asked anybody this, never had the opportunity. Is there a one spot of depository of African rhythms? Is there one place where someone can say, oh, I want to look up this particular rhythm from Kenya or, you know, wherever, Mali? Well, has anyone done that yet? Just compiled all the rhythms?
Oh, you mean on a site online or something?
Yeah, like for researchers, for musical researchers and ethnomusicologists or drummers.
You know, that could have existed. I've never looked that up like that. I've always looked at things by pieces. Like if I want to check out some Latin music, then I'll check out some stuff from Cuba or Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, whatever. If I want to check out some Haitian music, I'll go to that. If I want to check out some African music, specifically, if I want to check out West African music, I'll check out Senegalese music or Guinea or.
So are you talking about listening to CDs, or you mean
Yeah,
live
I
performances?
usually follow artists, specific artists. Like I just mentioned, Baba Mal from Senegal. But
Hmm.
before Baba Mal became popular, Youssou N'Dour was very
Oh
very
yeah.
popular,
Okay. Hmm.
and so he's
Hmm.
also from Senegal. And I
Hmm.
knew of him. I didn't really know of Baba Mal until much later.
Hmm.
And then of course I knew of Joliba National and Les Ballet Africains from primarily from Guinea. And then,
Hmm.
of course, we heard of Ladysmith Black Mumbazo
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
because they were doing, and Sarafina. So we got familiarized
That's South
with South
Africa.
African music,
Hmm.
and then we got familiar with Nigerian music through fella Aniki Palo Ransom Kuti
Hmm.
because he was very popular here.
And King Sunny Ade.
King Sunny Ade, exactly. He was very popular here. And then Hugh Masekela
Hmm.
was very popular. Miriam Makeba. So I
Hmm.
mean, from the late 50s coming into the early 60s, there were a lot of Africans who were identifying with our struggle and
Hmm.
wanted to express themselves artistically
Hmm.
simultaneously while we were. So while we were striving for independence here, South Africans were striving for independence in South Africa.
And I
And
remember Huma Sekela also, and
exactly,
his arranger Kaifa Semenya, who was awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many artists.
Yeah.
You can't really count all. But I mean, it's just the overall movement. And if you're a part of that movement, it's a wonderful thing. And I tried to. Oh, and I wanted to give a shout out too because I noticed one of your guests was Lenora Zenzele Helm.
Yeah.
I'm on her
Sure.
first. I'm on her first. I think it's her first. Might be her second record called Spirit Child.
Well, how about that?
Yeah, that's my
Okay.
homegirl from way back when she used to live in New York. I send her much love. I will always love her. I'll always appreciate her dedication to a group called um, oh my goodness, what's wrong with me? Sepia. She was part of a group
Okay.
called Sepia with Arif St. Michael, Marlon Saunders, and Rosa Russ, who also lives down there too.
Oh yeah, Rosa Rosa, I know her. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
yeah,
Okay.
Rosa and Lenore and Arif St. Michael and Marlon Saunders had a group called Sepia, who I used to play with a lot too.
Ah, okay. Because that's right. Because Rosa is from New York or New Jersey or something,
Well,
isn't she?
I met her in New York. I'm not really sure where she's from, but I met her in New York through
Hmm.
that group. I met all of them through Lenora. I
Awesome.
met Lenora first, and I met Lenora through Nasheed Waits, who's a very close friend of mine, drummer.
Okay. Now the last I knew, Rosa is singing with her sister in a group called. I might mispronounce it. There's an accent on the E. It's
Hmm.
either duet or duette. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
But they have a great CD out. You gotta
Oh,
check it
wow.
out. Yeah.
I'll look
It's
for that.
hot. It's hot. It's
I'll look
very
for that.
nice.
Hopefully, I'll get a chance to see them there. I mean, we haven't spoken in a long time because they moved down there. People move, and then you're not really gigging with them that much anymore, and then you
Sure,
don't really see
sure.
them. So, but I mean, I remember going to one of the shows and I saw her name and I wanted to give her a shout out because we did a lot of music together. We performed at a lot of interesting places together. We used to play at this cafe in Soho that was real weird. We were right across from the bar. It was usually just me, her, and a bass player. Sometimes it would be
Hmm.
me, her, and a keyboard player. It was always an interesting configuration, not a usual trio. And Miriam Sullivan was a bass player that worked with her a lot. And just a lot of years of creating music. Miriam is also on that record.
Hmm.
Bradford Marsalis is on that record. He's down there.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's just phenomenal people that were associated with her record. It was a great record. It was a great cast of musicians and artists, phenomenal people.
Nice. Nice. Maybe Muna, who is the promoter of this show, Remembering Pearl, that you're going to be playing it next Sunday, maybe she can connect you so you can
Yeah.
ask her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will. I knew Pearl though, and I know that she was a very warm person, very loving person, well-known person in the community. And when Muna had given me the information about her passing, I was more than willing to try to be there for some type of dedication to her.
Nice, nice. Now tell us about the music that you've played in terms of like what they call pop music or R&B, because you're really steeply based in the African traditions of drumming, but you've also lent your talents to artists who we hear on the radio all the time when we listen to R&B.
Sure.
So
Well, the first pop gig I got was with Roberta Flack in 1996. I started working with her, and then through her, I got a chance to work with Peabo Bryson and Ashford and Simpson, James Ingram, and we also performed at Prince's performance space, and then I actually got a chance to play with Prince later on. Because he sat in with Erykah Badu, who I was working with, and before I was working with Erykah Badu, I was working with Common,
nice.
and then I got a chance to work with Bilal through Common because Bilal did some shows with us, and then later on I got a chance to do some. I actually did Avery Brooks' first record. You know Avery Brooks?
He's an actor too, right?
He's an act. He's a major actor first and foremost. He was the captain of the Starship Enterprise.
Oh yes.
Bald-headed brother.
That's my man.
That's my man.
I'm not a big TV watcher, but I know who that is.
And then if you got a real good memory going way back,
it was a Deep Space Nine, I think it was.
Exactly, Deep Space Nine.
That's my man. Okay.
Yeah, he's a bad cat. But even before that, he did Spencer for Hire. And
I remember that.
And then there was a spin-off of that where he had his own show, which was called Hawk.
Hawk, I remember that too.
Because that was his name. So, I mean, he's like a Paul Robeson character. I mean, he's very much like multi-faceted in that way. He's a very good piano player. He accompanies himself. He's a great singer within that Paul Robeson kind of style. Oh yeah, he's a phenomenal human being, but he's really an artist in the very pure sense of the word. Because as we were doing when we were doing his record, Craig Harris actually was the producer of the record and was the musical director. And him and Craig Harris are close. They've known each other for a long time. And Craig Harris and we went to the same college, but he graduated long before I did. But we come out of the same tutelage of McConaughey, McIntyre, Warren Smith, Jack Jeffers. Richard Harper, Charlie Persip, all of these gentlemen taught at the university I went to, in Westbury in Long Island. Okay,
now I have to ask this question if you don't mind. Sure. So here you are playing traditional African music. So how do they know that you can play pop music? Not that that sounded kind of stupid, like it's going to be...
No. You know what it really was. The deal is that that old saying that old folks say, get in where you can fit in.
Okay.
The dance classes were usually daytime jobs, but most of the work of musicians is done at night, at clubs and at theaters. And so once I realized that when I graduated, even before I graduated college, because I was doing gigs with my other uncle, my mother's brother, was a funk bass player. And he would call me for gigs when I was like 15, 14, 13. And he heard that I could, he heard that I had a little bit of a pocket. And he would call me for funk gigs, and I would just listen to records, and then I would come and, learn the music. I remember Freddie Jackson was big. And we had to do all these Freddie Jackson tunes on a gig that I had, and I was playing kit, and playing the African drums first helped my drum set playing because it helped me piece things together. In folkloric drumming, you know, you have sometimes 3, 4, 5, 10 drummers, whatever. Every drummer has a part, and you have to stay with your part no matter what's going on around you. You have to stay in your zone and keep your part. You can't come out and look at the other guy and say, "Ooh, that sounds nice. Maybe I should try that," because then the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the folkloric drumming actually helped prepare me to know how to stay in my zone without trying to get in the way. But what was interesting was, you know, when I started playing straight ahead music, it's kind of a little bit of the opposite, because you have to stay in the zone, but you also have to interplay with each person that's around you. So you're constantly responding to what's around you, and sometimes the bass player might play something, you know, within the music that's great. You try to catch that to answer him, let him know you heard him. Same thing with the piano player. So there's this constant interplay with jazz, and all it really is just putting yourself in the position and claiming that you can do it. Okay. Because I what happened was, how I got the gig with Roberta was I was playing at 3 clubs consistently. I was playing at a place called St. Nick's Pub that closed. It was on 149th Street in St. Nicholas Avenue. I was there at least twice a week. I was there with Bill Saxton, tenor player, and I was also there with Floyd King, an alto player.
Okay. Is that Washington Heights, or is that not?
That's Harlem. No, that's Harlem. That's on St.
Harlem?
Yeah, that's still that's because that's St. Nicholas Avenue and 149th. Yeah, that's still Harlem.
Okay.
And that was like a real old Harlem kind of club attached to a big building, and it's closed now, but you walk down and it had a backyard, and a lot of musicians came through there to sit in. It would be open usually till 4 in the morning, something like that, 4 or 5 in the morning.
4 in the morning?
Yeah, 4 or 5 in the morning. And I was working there, but then I was playing drum set there predominantly. But then the word started spreading that I played folkloric music, like people had come to check me out at dance classes. Because sometimes people would say, "Oh, what do you do in the daytime?" I said, "Well, I teach and I play for dance classes." And they say, "Dance classes? Like, how does that fit in with what we're doing?" So some musicians would come, like guitar players or saxophone players. They would come and see me at a dance class, and they would ask could they play with the dancers, because they liked it too. You know, a bunch of beautiful women in leotards. No, a lot of people are not going to not want to see that. So they came, and they would sit in, and then it would be a learning experience. And then what would happen is, after that, when we came to play in the evening, there would be a different kind of connection, because they've just been exposed to drumming and dancing. And there's this gentleman by the name of Bernard Wright, who's a piano player and singer, came to see me at St. Nick's Pubs, but he also came to see me at this place downtown called Smalls. I was playing there with Jason Lindner, who's a piano player who had a big band. And we played every Monday from 10 to 2. And at that time, what I enjoyed about that band was we never played standards. Like it was a 12-piece big band, and every musician brought in music for the big band to play. So every time we played someone's song, the whole band's identity would change. In other words, we had a trumpet player, Diego Orcola, Latino cat, and if he brought a piece, the band would sound Latin. If we had a piece by Ron Westray, you know, it would be like a heavy big band kind of swing thing. If we played a big band piece by James Hurt, great piano player, it would have like an odd meter thing. Like every band member that brought in a piece, the band would change its identity, and we would only get stronger, and we encouraged each other.
Man, that must have been really quite a learning experience for those who are just picking up on that, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it was
because all the parts are written out, right?
Oh yeah, it was very. It was really that wasn't a walk in and sit in gig. You had to. We usually met at 8:00, and we rehearsed from 8 to 10, or 10 minutes to 10. Then we would stop, get ready to actually do the performance, and then we would do the performance from 10 to 2. And it was challenging, but it was rewarding because we encouraged each other. And for some of the people, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it depends on consistency of work. A lot of musicians don't like to rehearse because they like to. I was gonna say a lot of musicians don't like to rehearse if they don't think that it's going someplace. Are we rehearsing for a gig? Because when you're young and you have all the time in the world and you live with your parents and you don't have any sense of responsibility, then you can rehearse all day. But once you become a professional and you're feeding your family now with your art, and you're feeding your family with your craft, every bit of your time is precious. And so if somebody, and then, you're spending money to come and rehearse, you're leaving your family to work. It's a job. So when people rehearse, they have to pay you for your time. Now, in this particular instance, because the band was so big and because we were so young, even though I had children then, that's why I worked so much. Back then I was married and I had like 2 children at that time. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, I have to teach, I have to play for these dance classes, I have to gig at these clubs, I got to do some recordings, I got to do some touring, I got to do everything associated with music that I possibly can so that I can feed my children. So, and ultimately your focus just changes. So if somebody says, okay, let's rehearse, you have to say, okay, when is the rehearsal? Because now if the gig doesn't pay you enough for the rehearsal, then you have to figure, okay, well, I can rehearse on this day when I'm already there in the city and I'm already working. Mm-hmm. I got this time open, we can do something then. But I can't spend money to come into the city to work, to rehearse, and I'm not making any money. That just doesn't make any sense.
That makes sense. And I guess it's called maturity and life.
There you go. But like I said, when you're young and, you live with your parents and you're not paying any bills and your parents are taking care of anything for you, open up the fridge and the food is there. You don't know how it got there, but you're still eating. Then in that type of instance, then you can rehearse all day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's okay. But once you grow up and once you take on different levels of responsibilities as an adult, mm-hmm. What you start to make money as, you have to conduct it as a business because it is a business. And even though we're not making P. Diddy, Jay-Z money, we're still very valid within the realm of art and mm-hmm. the realm of creativity and the realm of black expression. And every genre of music deserves to be honored. Mm-hmm. We all know, of course, in the business of music, what gets through the door, what makes the big money is always questionable. And I've always been one I don't mind making the big money with someone, and I don't mind making the small money with someone as long as the art is on a high level.
That's a good attitude. That's a real good attitude.
Yeah, the art has to be on a high level, because the one thing I can, every single R&B, hip hop, neo soul, whatever you want to call Erykah, every one of those artists individually they have a very strong talent. Like Erykah Badu is a very good performer. Mm-hmm. Like I consider her a phenomenal performer more so than a singer.
Okay.
Like when it's because I've gotten a chance to work with some great singers, and I've seen some singers who, they just focus on the voice, not on necessarily the performance. Sure. When I say performance, I mean just the stance and the dress and mm-hmm. and how your stance on the stage and
the hair.
The hair, all of that stuff. Exactly, that's a perfect example because Erykah used to have locks, and then when she cut her locks and had the short haircut, she was still wearing the gele, and she would come on stage and she would have the gele on, and I guess the audience hadn't realized that she cut her locks off. She would take the gele off and stand there for 10 minutes maybe, and the audience just be screaming and pictures being taken and all of this stuff. The music's still going, but
That's weird.
she hasn't sung a note yet.
Wow.
And that's when I realized she's a performer. Like working with Roberta, it was the complete opposite. Roberta sang the moment she got on stage, and Roberta's a phenomenal balladeerist. You know, her thing is really ballad. She can pull you in on a very slow song and get you involved with the story. You know, Erykah's more of a vibe person. You know, the vibe has to be created with the band, and then she comes up with her thing. And by the time she comes up, the vibe has already been set by the band and the background vocalists and everybody in the stage ambiance and all of that stuff. And then when she comes on, she'll take a minute before she sings. She'll come up, she'll light some incense, she'll drink some tea, she'll come and sit on her little. She has these props, these tables and stuff that she'll set up, and she'll set all that stuff up and put her tea on the table, and like it's almost like a theatrical presentation.
I've never seen her live. I didn't know she was that dramatic.
Oh, very, very, and that's why I consider her more so a performer than like just a vocalist. She sings well, but it's her performance I think that grabs people. And I think with Roberta's singing grabs people in regards of her ballads. Her up-tempo, Roberta's not like an up-tempo singer where everybody goes, whoa, she sang that tune so fast like a Ella Fitzgerald or even Shaka or any of that. But, Roberta has her thing, and her thing is phenomenal. And her thing is she can milk a ballad like no other. She's definitely the top of. She can just sit at the piano and play First Time Ever I Saw Your Face and have like people in the audience crying right away. Away. And she hasn't even finished the song. She'll start the song, pause within the song, hold the chord down, and you'll hear the resonance of the chord, and then when she starts singing again, you'll hear somebody bawl in the audience crying. I've heard that a few times. Wow. So that was I started realizing her power in that. Like somebody will say, well, why is this person great? You know what I mean? And then if you get a chance to work with the person, you really see why they're great, how they're able to capture someone with just a few words, and with their storytelling within the lyric.
The only two people I can think of who can also play it slow and keep an audience enthralled is Luther Vandross and Shirley Horn.
And he's another one I worked with. I forgot to mention him. I worked with him through Roberta, too, because we did the Rosie O'Donnell show together.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I forgot to mention him. Yeah, Luther was phenomenal.
Yeah, Shirley Horn is another one. She could do a song that I don't even like. And just wear me out. I mean, just go for like 8 minutes on The Girl from Ipanema, which is a song I'm really sick of. Or whatever. I'm sorry, not Girl from Ipanema. Gingy. She did Gingy by Jobim. And it was like 8 minutes. I don't even like that song. And she tore it up. She absolutely tore it up. Absolutely. Have you ever, this is probably an impolite question to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Have you ever known a drummer who is with a pop group and he's not really called upon to do that much, but he's, you know what I'm trying to say? How sometimes they have a conguero or conga drummer there because they need one, but he's not really doing much, but it's a popular band. Oh, yeah, well, that I'm wondering if that's frustrating.
It is at times. It is at times. No, and it is, period, really, because, when I run into people who are not well known, who are very talented, and then I run into people who back talented people. There's a great documentary called 20 Feet from Stardom.
Oh, yeah.
That deals with all the background vocalists, or not all of them, but, a considerable number of background vocalists who never really got the attention that they deserved or the recognition that they deserve. And Lisa Fisher was one of them. She was one of the main ones interviewed in that movie. And Lisa's tight with Ada Dyer, who was one of Roberta's background vocalists, who works with me a lot. Okay. And I work with her. And Ada Dyer's vocalist out of Chicago, phenomenal. You know, she sang background for Shaka. She sang background for Roberta. She sang background for James Ingram, Luther, Shaka, Sting. So you know, she's a problem in Funkadelics. You name it. She's ran the gamut of great artists, and she's who she sang background for. And the interesting thing with background vocalists is they're like musicians in the context that they have to know harmony. They have to know where they fit in. There's no real. Either you know how to sing harmony with two other background vocalists or three other, or however many background vocalists there are, or you do not. You have to lay out.
Wow.
And she's one of the elite background vocalists of many people. And it's like I realize that I've seen some groups that are very mediocre. I see many groups that are mediocre. I think we're in a time now where mediocrity is accepted. The bar isn't really raised. And I think that oftentimes, I think also a lot of times because African Americans have created so much in this country, that oftentimes people do not acknowledge our greatness, or sometimes we do not acknowledge our greatness. And then because of the people who pull strings in business, what happens is they begin to validate who is worthy of attention. You know, I think this girl that shakes her butt in this video is more worthy of attention than this sister who dances with Dance Theater of Harlem.
Sure.
You understand what I'm saying? All of a sudden, a sister who's doing pirouettes, or a sister who's doing first position, second position, third position, grand plie, plie, dégagé, all of these terms that we hear so often in dance, and that we used to see in early videos. Like if we watched a video by Janet Jackson, or we watched a video by Lionel Richie back in the 80s, we would see modern dancers dancing steps that we have seen in a dance class. And now all of a sudden you see basically pole dancing, a lot of booty shaking, a lot of, you know, sexual orientated movement. That's not, that I don't want to say it's not dance, because it's a form of expression, but it's kind of taken the attention away from, and it's the business. I don't blame those dancers. Those dancers do what they do.
Yeah.
So if this is what's paying the money, then they're going to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the sisters who say, okay, I don't want to do that. I took all this ballet training for all of these years. I studied this modern for all of these years. And now you telling me I got to shake my butt in the video? I'm not doing it. I'll wait for the modern gig with a dance company.
Yeah.
You know, and the people who decide to not take those gigs and not take the money, you know, they lose out on bread, and sometimes they might even lose out on opportunity, but they hold on to something that is extremely valuable.
Yeah.
You know, because the moment you start lowering your standards as an artist, before you know it, you have lowered to the point where you've lost the thing that made you and inspired you to play in the first place, or to perform in the first place, which was excellence. You saw excellence in someone else. Right. You saw high level in someone else, and that made you say, well, I want to do that too, or I want to be great like that person. And now all of a sudden being great, it's very hard for children now to even want to study the arts, because why would a child want to play an instrument when they see a kid who can barely speak making millions of dollars? They see a kid who's their age, and they say, okay, well, this kid, I can rhyme like that. I can do that. You know, and everybody starts to have that same chant, that same rhythm, and then that's the format now of how rappers rap. When I was coming up, every rapper had a different style. You know, the Grand Nubians had a different style from the Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Snoop Dogg and some other cats just had a very interesting conversation I saw on Facebook, just about the same thing.
I saw that too. Yeah, I saw that too. I love that. I posted that actually on my thing. I shared that. That was wonderful. I love that. Yeah, 50 Cent and Snoop Dogg was talking. Yeah. Exactly, and that's the thing that, you know, because even you know, 50 Cent and Snoop Dogg, those cats, I wouldn't consider them conscious rappers or anything. I mean, my favorite rapper is KRS-One, and I know he'll never get the play, you know, and the exposure like those cats, because I know the game of the business. You know, the business, like Prince said. Prince always said, you know, the business has nothing to do with the artistry.
Wow,
you know,
that's
Prince,
actually pretty sad.
It's unfortunate, but it is, you know, because the music business is the music business. The music performance and the artistry is different. It comes from a different place. You know, to create art, to create excellence within art, you have to go into a very deep spiritual place to really get to that level of wanting to share with other people what's going on inside of you and what you focused on, and connecting your spirit with what you study. But when you come to the music business is, well, how many people are going to buy this?
Exactly.
Okay, somebody bought this and it was that dumb. Okay, let's get another person who's going to be that dumb or dumber, and let's make more money.
Do it again.
And that's all it's about. Exactly, that's all it's about right now, unfortunately.
Now, when it comes to your music, because you have what, 6 or 7 CDs out?
I have 7 CDs out under my label, and I'm working on my 8th. I'm actually trying to get an African vocalist involved, and I'm working on an African record, basically African record in the context of vocalists. The music is, you know, is pretty much like, there's some music that is clearly African, and then there's some music that's like rock. There's like 2 songs that are like straight up rock tunes, but I can definitely hear like a South African singer singing those too. Okay. Because I always heard, in my mind, like I always hear like somebody like Hugh Masekela singing like one of my songs, and then on another song I hear somebody like Baba Miles singing, and then I hear on another one of my songs I hear somebody like Salif Keita or somebody. Yeah. So I have all these people in my mind of who I would love to be on the record. Of course, I don't have a budget to pay these people, but you know, if I find a young person who is who's aspiring to be recorded, and they want to be exposed, and they want to be a part of a very strong project, then I will be glad to employ them, because that's pretty much how it always starts. You know, you start off with the small things, and then the small things lead to the big things. It's a process. That's another thing too. Now,
I can't wait to see what you come up with.
Oh yeah, no, I can't either. I've been talking to a lot of singers, but one of my closest friends who I was in school with at Harlem School of the Arts, his name is Phumzile Sojola. He's from South Africa. He's actually doing, I believe, Cinderella, I believe, on Broadway. And I don't know what role he's playing in that or whatever, but whenever you're doing a show on Broadway 6 days a week, you get 1 day off. And then another friend of mine, R&B singer, recommended this guy Songi, or Bongi, I think his name is Bongi. He's from South Africa as well, and he performs with the Lion King. And so both of these guys are pretty busy, so I couldn't get a hold. And then some of the other singers that I was trying to, Somi was a singer that I was trying to get, but now she's been pretty busy. Just getting a hold of people. Everybody's schedules is busy. Everybody's busy. I understand all of that. But I also know too, though, if it was a record label that was recognizable, like a Blue Note or Warner Brothers or whatever, they would just come and do it. I know that.
Yeah, you might have
my label is small. It's independent.
Yeah, you might have to do what Ninth Wonder did and collaborate online. That's a possibility. That's true. But see, another thing too is I'm such a hands-on person, and sitting down, listening to the music, translating the English lyrics into their indigenous language. That's kind of hard to do through the computer. Like it's easier if you can sit with the person together as they're listening and as they're thinking of their language as they're reading in English.
the translation, because once the translation starts to happen, the rhythm changes. Perhaps the melody might even have to change to adjust to the voice according to what's going on. So, and that's something that I haven't figured out yet. If there's going to be somebody, because I have a saxophone player playing the melody to all of the tunes where the singer is supposed to sing. And so if the singer listens to that melody and says, well, in my language, it won't sound exactly like that. It will probably sound like this. And then all of a sudden I say, wow, well then I got to take that out and I have to now figure out a way, because the music is already laid down. So so it's definitely a hands-on situation. It's definitely a hands-on situation where someone has to sit with me, and we have to work it out. And I've done projects like that with many people, where we sat down and talked about ideas. When I was with ethnomusicology, we would all be sitting in the room, all of the musicians. How about we put this sample here? How about we put this African rhythm here, or this Latin rhythm here, or how about we put a clarinet part on here? When you have all these people, all these creative minds in the booth together, and the creative juices are flowing, when everybody's together, some great ideas come, and then we're able to really build much faster.
Okay. I've made you hold that iPhone to your face to light it for almost for like an hour now, and I know you're probably worn out.
No, it's cool. It's cool. It's not heavy. It's cool.
But I just wanted to thank you for being on the show.
Oh, I love your show. Oh,
thank you. What are you going to be teaching during this workshop? Like I said, it's going to be. You said it's going to be on October 25th, Saturday.
Right.
And I don't know what it's called. It used to be called the No Bookstore, but it's on Fayetteville Street here in Durham, North Carolina.
Right.
What will you be teaching?
I'll basically be teaching, how to approach composition, how to approach your instrument, how to deal with the regimen of practice. How to juggle practicing in with your daily routine, your life, how to listen to music in regards of, like a lot of people will listen to music while they do things, and that's cool, but sometimes it's good to listen to music and be still. Like if you're driving, sometimes that's good because, even though you're turning the wheel and pressing on the gas, for the most part, your body's pretty still. And when you're listening while you're driving alone, you tend to take in music differently, and it's the same thing like if you're laying down in the bed and it's very quiet in your home. As you're listening to music, you're taking that in, and then you hear things differently. If you're doing laundry, if you're cooking, if you're washing dishes, if you're busy doing something, it's not getting in the same way.
Sure.
So we'll talk about those things. We'll talk about how to approach rhythm sections, how to stay out of the way, how to approach a solo, because a lot of times people think solo is playing a lot of notes. Sometimes you have to examine phrasing. Sometimes you can take one note. One of my professors used to always say, Makanda McIntyre, he would be so upset when people would try to play a lot of notes rhythmically. He would say, look, one note solo. He would force everybody to play a one note solo.
One note solo.
One note solo, meaning one pitch. So like, say if you have the solfege, which is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So you have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do is C.
Okay.
So to say it's a C major scale. So you can say do is C, and so do, da. So if you're playing a song in C or whatever, and it's da 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 da. It's the same note, but it's rhythmically changing constantly. So that's a one-note solo. That's what when I had a professor that used to really Makanda McIntyre. He was very, very adamant about that because he'd hear horn players specifically. He'd hear horn player. He'd say, man, put that horn down. I don't want to hear that crap. One note solo. He would scream at them, and they would be upset, like, what did they do wrong? And what he was trying to get them to do is not focus on being notey, but being more soulful in regards of rhythm, because rhythm forces you to connect with your heartbeat, your time, your walk. We walk in rhythm. We talk in rhythm. You know, when you're playing a whole lot of notes, it's like rambling in a conversation. You're not listening. And you know, like every time you say something, I will pause to hear what else you have to say, and then once you pause, then I'll say something, and that's how it's supposed to be in music. You know, we have to take the time to listen, and if you're rambling with notes, and not pausing, and rhythm kind of helps you do that. You know, when people have a whole lot of notes, oh, I'm in this key, and I'm in this key, and I'm going to change keys here, and I'm going to change keys there. It has to be in context to what's going on with the music. You have to see what's happening with the music. Sometimes I remember when I first got the gig with Roberta, I had been doing only jazz gigs, really, mostly. And the guy who got me the gig, Bernard Wright. When we first had our first rehearsal, you know, I was just playing all this stuff. I was like, okay, I'm gonna show these cats. I was the youngest guy in the band, and I said, I'm gonna play my butt off. I mean, I was playing all these hard rhythms, and I was hearing all this complex rhythm to an R&B song. So Bernard says, man, you got too much information for this gig. And basically, what he was saying was, I didn't have to play that much.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, he's right. It's not the music isn't exactly. Relax, feel what everyone else is playing, respond to that, groove with that.
There you go.
You can fit something with it that can be complex, but it still has to groove, because that's what this band is about. This band is about grooving. This band is about there is an interplay involved, but it's so. You know, another thing with Roberta, her dynamics, she can sing so softly, and then she can project so loudly, but her sense of dynamics was and she forced the band to play in that way. So I would consider like Roberta like a Shirley Horn kind of vocalist. They had very similar, even though, you know, Shirley Horn's more straight ahead. I would say that they approached ballads the same way in regards of with the sensitivity to dynamics, a sensitivity to space and time, and relaxation within a song. They both had that. Definitely. They both have that, I should say. Yeah.
Definitely. So you're going to work with all of that on Saturday, October 25th, at the building that used to be the No Bookstore here in Durham, North Carolina. Do you happen to know the time? Do you know what time it's going to be?
I think we'll start at either 4 or 5.
Okay.
And if they want to know, let me give the number that they can call, because there's a gentleman that they can call and get the exact time, location, address. The gentleman's name is William McLaughlin. He's the curator, the owner of the establishment, and let me see. His phone number is. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Take your time.
His phone number is 252-908-7243.
Okay, 252-908-7243. Okay, and then, like we were saying, the night after that, you will be at Blue Coffee Cafe. That's 202 North Corcoran, downtown Durham, North Carolina, on Sunday, the 26th of October, 2014, from 4 until 6 p.m. And the program is called Remembering Pearl, an afternoon of jazz. And Muna is the one who set that up, right?
Muna is my best friend. She's one of my best friends, and she's been supportive of my career since high school.
Wow.
So, you know, ever since she's moved down there, she's been telling people about, you know, what I've done. My mother lives down there also, so it's always a great way for me to come and see her and spend some time with her. And then there's a brother who's out of Queens, actually, who used to drum for another great dancer out of Queens who knows Francis rhymes, and his name is Bradley Simmons.
Oh,
Bradley, who teaches at Duke.
Who doesn't know Bradley Simmons?
There you go. He's a phenomenal percussionist, and he knows my uncle and my father. So, it's like every time I come down there, it's like, coming to another home.
It's like a family reunion.
It is. It is a family reunion there. I feel like I'm home when I come down there, and I feel the love, and a lot of people are familiar with my music down there. Most people who come to see me can remember some of the titles of the songs of my records, and sometimes somebody will even come up and sing a melody, which is like really wonderful, because people always remember lyrics to songs, but when they can actually sing a melody to a song, I love that song that goes da 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 da, whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, So the fact that they can remember the melodies to some of the songs always touches my heart, always.
So those who want to get into your music, if they're not into it already, where do they go? iTunes, your website?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can go to iTunes, CD Baby, or Amazon.com.
Okay, and it's Kahlil Kwame Bell, for those of you who don't know. So thanks again for being on the show, Kahlil.
Thank you so much, Patricia.
Absolutely.
Patricia, I love your show. Love your show.
Thank you.
I really do. Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. And for those who'd like to be a guest on TV Skywriter, just get in contact with me, Patricia A. Murray. Just write to Durham Skywriter at gmail.com. It's called Durham Skywriter because I actually do an all-positive online newspaper called the Durham Skywriter. Covers the city of, obviously, Durham, North Carolina. Radio Skywriters on WNCU. I do that every week on Sundays. It actually precedes this show. It comes on from 6:30 to 7 on 90.7 FM locally and WNCU.org everywhere else. So with that, I bid you good night. Thank you very much, Kahlil Kwame Bell, for being on the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You guys have a great week. See you next time.
You too.
Ciao.